SiriusXM comedy exclusive. And now, headliners with the cast of Super Troopers 2, right here on SiriusXM.
Welcome to Headliners on Raw Dog Comedy. I'm the last professional broadcaster, Sam Roberts, from Jim Norton and Sam Roberts over on Channel 103. And with me is all of Broken Lizard except for one at the moment.
All the best parts.
Right.
Child.
Right.
All the best parts.
guys.
We have Jay, Kevin, Eric, and Paul.
Yeah.
Steve is supposed to be here at some point, but I guess things aren't going well for Steve on this.
Steve might be here. He's a very small guy. He's
Short. You down there, little guy?
Hey, little buddy, get up in that seat.
Come on, little guy. Get
Come
out
on,
there.
fella.
Jump up.
I was just worried that he'd finally succumbed to the perils of fame, the drugs, the addiction, that he was sleeping through his interviews. You know, I worry about these things. You see these guys, sometimes it takes longer than...
No. When last we saw him, he was in like an alleyway in Chelsea eating Tide Pods. And, so
that's what it is now with these young celebrities. It's the Tide Pods.
Oh,
It gets
terrible.
them-
Chugging
terrible.
Tide Pods.
You guys have known each other since college,
We were
correct?
18 when we met.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And at no point, did you guys always want to work creatively together for this amount of time, or did any of you think that this will be good for 5 years or so, and then we'll all...
Yeah, I thought I'd be done with these guys years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't want to join the group.
That's
Jay had to badger
He's still
Kevin to join the
reluctant.
group.
3
Yeah.
times I asked him, and the third time, the first time he said, I'm not doing a comedy group. And the second time he's like, I already told you I'm not doing a comedy group. And then this is over 4 months, and 2 months later I'm like, we're doing it. It's a done deal. You're in. He goes, all right, fine, I'll do the damn comedy. Get off my
Look
back.
at me now. Look
But
at me
I'm
now.
not
Look
going to
at
do
you
it
now.
for 30 years.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that
I'll
much
tell you
right now.
I'm never going to 25, maybe, but 30.
So what was it about him that was like, no, we need him. He needs to be in the group, because obviously...
Because I'm the
Wait a
fat guy.
minute.
You need a
Everyone
fat guy.
needs
He wanted me to
Every comedy group needs a fat guy.
compliment him in front of him.
Well, you know, because...
You could have said what I just said. I mean, that would have been the same. That would have been...
Insult him.
Insult me.
America
instead.
would turn on me if I said that.
But you did. You need a short guy. You need a fat guy. Or what Lemmy, that's a good thing to talk about Lemmy while I was gone, is I think you were like, we need somebody to play the scumbag. We need a good scumbag.
That's actually what Kevin said.
That's right. That's what
Kevin
I did
didn't
say.
want Steve Lemmy in the group.
Yeah.
And because Steve Lemmy stole his jacket one night at a party.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
And I was like, Steve,
You guys were the same size, huh?
Well, that's the thing. He stole the coat. He saw this winter coat and it wrapped around him twice. he looked like a burrito in it, and so he was like, "I'm digging that coat." And he took it. And he took my coat, and then
And you're pissed.
I was pissed.
Yeah.
I went for a week in the wintertime with our coat. I went back to the same party the next week, and there's my coat. And I picked the coat up, and I look in the pocket, and the thief had left his college ID in the pocket.
Oh,
And
what
the
a
thing said-
rookie move.
I know. And it said, pulled it out, Steve Lemmy.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, went up to him. I was like, "Hey, man, you stole my coat." And he goes, "No, I didn't." He goes, "I found your ID in it." And he goes, "Oh, the same guy who stole my ID must have stole your coat."
Did you know him? Did you know him, or did you just know him?
Well, I knew of him, but we were not friends.
And so I said to him later, I'm like, we should put Steve Lemmy in this group. And he's like, no, he's a coat stealer. I'm not putting him in. And I'm like, no, he's really good. And finally he agreed. He goes, okay, he can play all the scumbag roles.
Yeah.
So you were the one that brought everybody together.
Yes.
And did you just were you just aware of everybody and what they could bring to the table and
I
stuff?
went to all the funniest people at Colgate, and I said, I'm starting a comedy group, and I want you to be in it. And some of them were like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Like, there are some people who
Then you
just
got left
never
with us.
agreed.
It's senior year, bro. Why did
Yeah.
I do that?
Exactly. But
And I got rooked out of the first year of being in the group because there was a miscommunication between me and Jay where I thought Jay was asking me to join. He was asking me to audition.
Oh,
And I didn't
that's
show up for the
embarrassing.
auditions. I thought it was an invitation to be in the
And
group.
Paul
Right.
Soder does not audition.
And
Right.
I don't even get out of bed for less than $10,000. And then I went and saw this, and I was like, that's bullshit that I didn't get, that I thought I was being invited, and I didn't. And I talked to Jay, and Jay's like, well, you didn't show up for the audition. I was like, I didn't know that I had to audition.
Yeah, do you get upset when you find out like Kevin is getting begged? No, you have to. I'm not joining. Please join us. And
It's
you're like,
true.
you're welcome to audition
Yeah, it
if
turns
you
out,
want.
yeah.
If you want.
I made Kevin audition.
I auditioned.
What was your audition?
It was a cheap audition. I think it was a
I told you, I'm like,
phoned it in.
dude, just for the
For the
Yeah.
appearances
Optics,
of it
you
all.
gotta
For the optics.
You're making it in. Don't worry.
you're in.
So I just phoned it in.
Yeah.
Right, you didn't really worry about it too much. Nah.
When I watched
Save
your
it for the
audition, I'm
stage,
like,
man. Save it for the stage.
I was a little worried after watching your audition.
Yeah, he'll be good on the day.
What about you, Eric? Did you have to audition?
I auditioned, yeah. I believe I was either like, I had to be a bottle of mustard to someone's bottle of ketchup. It was some improv game you guys do.
Impossible. It's impossible to make that funny. You did though.
But I
great
did
mustard,
that,
though.
right?
You're great
Here we
mustard,
are.
You did it.
So it was more than just the five of you, though. When you start, because years go by, you're just a comedy group and you start touring and everything. When Super Troopers comes out, obviously then the whole world becomes aware of Broken Lizard. But before that, not really.
No, not at all.
The guys that left and we're like, no, this was a college thing. It's time for real life, guys.
Yeah.
And then Super Troopers comes out. Do you hear from those guys? Like,
Yeah.
are you looking for other people? Because I'm still technically in the group, right?
Sure. They're
Yeah.
selling insurance now, those guys.
Yeah.
I got a great insurance policy, guys, if you want to know.
There are a couple people like that, yeah.
Yeah, they bailed out.
We actually had one guy in our group that is doing very well. He wrote Ocean's 11. Like, he wanted to be a very successful
Ted
screenwriter.
Griffin. Yeah.
Really?
Ted Griffin,
Yeah.
So he was okay.
He's okay.
But there must have been
Yeah,
other
okay.
guys that were like, and then when these guys reach out, do you feel bad? Like, oh, we got some success now. We should, or do you go, no, we got this success
I feel
with.
bad, but the honest truth is there's just not room for one more white guy in the group.
Jay put a quota down. And said, no
It's
more.
funny though. It's like I meet a lot of Indian actors, and they're like, you guys should do a movie and like put me in it, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm the Indian guy in the group. Like, what are we gonna do with you? If there's an Indian part, I'm gonna be playing that part.
Sure.
That was you and Colgate at auditions going like, no, not you.
Yeah.
Next.
No more Indians.
Because you need to fill that role.
That's
So
right, that's me.
We had women in our group.
you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And what happened? They all split.
They got
Yeah.
wise. They decided to go make money.
Couldn't put up with us anymore.
Yeah.
Well, how long did it take? So you guys weren't making a lot of money before Super Troopers came out.
No.
No,
still
When Super Troopers came out, we were all still had our day jobs,
Yeah.
right? Like people were waiting tables and stuff. And
As the movie's in theaters.
yeah, well,
Well,
because it took a long time for it to come out,
Right.
and so as the movie's in theaters, people were still working their day jobs.
How do you convince a studio? Because I was literally just having a conversation with somebody about Super Troopers because I watched it over the weekend to kind of get me into the spirit for the sequel.
Research.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I was like watching it going like, this is one of those movies that, obviously it's created such a fan base, but you watch it going, I can't believe this got made in the best possible way,
Oh, yeah,
right?
sure,
Like this
sure.
is not one that should have snuck by the studios. Movies that we like this much don't get made, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have gotten made if the studio. I mean, the studio. We tried to take that movie. We took it to all the studios, and we were able to sort of get halfway in. Like some people bought the script and then ditched it, and it was at Miramax for a while. They ditched it, and then Universal almost made it, but they couldn't. They couldn't agree with the producer who wanted a lot of money, and so eventually we just had to try to make it independently. And we went to every independent financier. And one of them was like, I'll finance it if Ben Affleck can play Thorny. And I'm like, that's me. And he goes, not in this movie, kid. And so, I mean, nobody wanted to finance the film either. And we were done. Like I was in our office in New York packing it up. And the phone rang and it was my friend Cricket. And she said, I hate to do this, but my dad had retired from investment banking and he thinks he wants to be a screenplay writer. And you're the only one who's sort of in show business I know. Can you talk to him?
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So I talked to him and he goes, hey, I wrote a script.
And you were like, retired from finance, you say.
I didn't even think about that. He'd retired. He'd written a script, like a comedy script. And he was like, I should, can I send it to you? I'm like, yeah. And then he goes, actually, I'd just like to see what your writing is like before you read my script, just to know if it's like he's auditioning me to see if I can read the script.
Yeah.
And so he goes, can you send me something? I'm like, all right. So he sent him Super Troopers.
And I liked it too. You're such the point of desperation. This guy saying like, why don't you send me something before? You're like, okay, yeah, I'll do it.
yeah,
Whatever
yeah,
you, yeah, sure.
So I sent it to him. And he calls me back a week later, and I'm like, he's going to send me his script, which I don't even want to read now. And he goes, what's going on with this movie? And I said, we're raising money. And he goes, can you make it for $1 million too? And I said, yeah, sure. And he goes, all right, let's do it. And within about 3 weeks, we were financed. He wrote the check, and you're like,
amazing.
He didn't know what he was doing. He made an insane move that all of Hollywood had decided, no, don't
So
do
we
this.
didn't have to get any notes from the studio.
Yeah,
Nothing from the
he
studio.
didn't.
Right, yeah.
He just made it.
So you make it, and then once it's a final product, that's when it starts getting
Yeah,
theatrical
we
release.
Brought we brought it to the Sundance Film Festival,
We had to sell it still.
and we sold it to Fox Searchlight there.
But it's amazing that you were able to sell a final film. Like, I know
Yeah.
it's done,
Yeah.
but just, for the creative process.
Yeah.
And a bunch of guys that haven't really made, a big movie like this before, you guys got to just do it, and then this is the movie if you want to buy it.
Yeah, and it wasn't until a couple years later that
That it got bought and everything?
No, that it took off. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
more,
yeah.
It was more when people like passed the DVD around. When people found the movie, it took a little while.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say we had a different ending. So when we filmed it at Sundance, we had a different ending, and then Searchlight bought it, and we reshot. They wanted the Stoners to come back from the opening scene,
Right.
and so we brought them in to bookend it, and we had to write a new scene, then reshoot that last ending.
But that was it.
Yeah.
That was the only change.
Yeah.
That's
And
pretty.
the scores went up 10 points when we did that.
Really?
Now we reshoot all our endings.
Well, look who's here.
Oh,
Well,
Steve is here.
What's up?
Just
yeah.
walking in like a celebrity, like, oh.
How's everybody doing today?
Yeah, good. How you doing? Good.
Well, welcome. We were just talking about the beginnings of Broken Lizard and how everybody got together, and you were cast as the quintessential scumbag.
Yeah, that's me.
To be a part of everything.
Yeah, look at my greasy hair.
No, you're right.
he walks in late.
You're right. Have you guys, the three of you, have you decided the mustache is going to be a thing, or is it like while we're on this promotional run, if we keep the mustaches, it'll remind people this is the project we're promoting?
Yeah, no, it was definitely, there was a promotional element to it, but now I think I might rock it for a while.
You think so?
What do you guys think?
I think it looks good.
Yeah,
I
let me,
Tom Selleck. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
believe you.
You don't think so?
I think you'll shave it on Saturday.
I'm making some oils, maybe some oils, and oil it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
What about you guys? Like, are you keeping it?
Hell yeah, I am.
This is it.
Yeah, we're doing this promotional tour. I've had this mustache blow dried and waxed so many times
Right.
now by
Right.
professionals. I can't go back.
Well, that's actual luxury, right?
That's
now
the
you're
sign
li-
of success.
Yeah, it's 100% right.
He loves Sam Elliott too. It's like his hero. Sam Elliott's his hero.
Yeah.
No, I'll get rid of it. I feel like you can get away with having a shitty beard, but when you have just a shitty mustache, you're pigeonholed as like a gross.
And you think this? You think mine
pedophile.
is a shitty mustache?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's part of the charm, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things, too, that in 2 months, like after this movie has come out and it's had its run in theaters
Yeah.
and it's kind of over,
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, we got it.
We
You're
got
the,
it.
you're the
Okay.
Super
Yeah,
Troopers.
you're the
Okay,
mustache.
understood.
Lose the mustache, buddy.
Yeah, it gets a little sad.
All right, I'll shave it Monday.
What was it?
He's convinced him.
What was it about the Super Troopers concept that you guys were like, no, this is the project we're pushing forward? Because obviously, as a comedy group, you guys had more concepts than just, stoner highway troopers. Yeah. So, like, the fact that everybody was turning this script down, what was it about this one that you were like, no, this is the movie?
Well, we only had one script at that time. So we were like, we should do this script. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
now we have 5 or 6 scripts that we could make, around town
Sure.
in Hollywood. But that time we had this one thing. We were like, this is the thing. This is all we have.
Did you get to a point where you're like, we should maybe write something else because everybody's saying no to this?
Because the problem was they were saying the script is good, but can't we put real actors in it instead
I
of
see.
you guys? So the idea wasn't that, if we only write another script, they'll go, okay, now we'll let you guys be in it. They were just like, you guys should write and we'll take your movie.
Yeah, one
Right.
of the studios said, we'll do this if Ben Affleck
Oh, it's funny.
complains.
You
Oh,
missed that
now
part
he
of the
comes in.
Late Man
Mr.
Charlie
Lace.
coming in for the win.
Why don't you just repeat our
Walking
stuff,
in
man?
the whole show.
They didn't make it easy, did they? Really humiliating.
I planned that.
You just-
I planned that.
You just got the most accurate glimpse into our dynamic right now. It's like one guy fucks up and everybody else just sinks their teeth into his neck as quickly as possible.
You're just waiting for somebody to mispronounce a word. Like, oh my God, he has it. That's not how you say that.
I was downstairs with the Fox Searchlight representative, and I just you have to figure out exactly what you're gonna be walking into. I was like, was anybody else late? They're like, no, everybody's pretty much on time. I was like, is anybody else hungover? They're like, oh yeah, everybody's hungover. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with this.
So the dynamic is an important thing to bring up because I think in this sequel, even more than the original, the concept of there's always one guy in the group that you hate is brought back a bunch of times, right? Because we see it in not just with you guys, but in multiple groups. But it made me think that in real life, there must be like that dynamic has to exist, right?
In this group?
right? In the Broken Lizard group,
No.
not in the.
Well, the people we hated have been eliminated.
Those are the ones that were calling you after Super Troopers, being like, "Oh, you're still looking for people," and you're like, "Not you."
I had to have that very tough conversation.
You did,
Yeah,
but there was something satisfying about it because you hated them.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you do need that dynamic, and so I think each of us sort of unconsciously just takes turns being the asshole.
I
you know?
see.
Yeah.
I see. And
Because you're right. Every group, there has to be a fall guy. There has to be a scapegoat. There has to be.
I guess that's the healthiest way to do it is to like have that has to shift because if it really is always one guy, eventually that guy's like, "Fuck you guys, you're not my
Right.
friends at all.
Yeah.
Like you guys are all terrible human beings." Were you surprised at how successful the crowdfunding went for this sequel? Because I think what was it? You asked for like $2 million and you ended up getting something like $4. Is that right?
About 4.7, I think it was. Yeah.
Almost
Let's round it
$5
up to
million.
five. Round it up
Yeah.
to five.
Five,
I like
fiver.
rounding
It's a
it
fiver.
up.
So
It was flattering. It was, and surprising
yeah.
and a little scary. Like if nobody contributed, we would have been done. It would have been over. But people came out and supported us.
Is one of the reasons this sequel took so long? Did you guys want to prove you could do stuff beyond Super Troopers? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can't just do a sequel after this. We have to
Right.
Broken Lizard as a
we
thing.
we wanted to wait until 4/20 was a Friday. That was
Right,
that was our.
so you check your calendar.
Like
11
every-
years from now?
every-
Okay, boom. Let's
yeah.
do it.
Pencil
The
it
next
in.
one's in 11 years. So
Right.
That's when you get the next Super Trooper.
Right.
I think it's a smart way to go about it.
We did what we wanted to do what Monty Python did and make different movies.
Right.
Yeah, but like, oh my God, these guys can do anything. Okay, one sketch and one movie, one guy's this guy. Like that was the gold standard.
Right.
And Ben Affleck was going to play Thorny.
I see. I see.
all
That's
right. All right.
That's a great anecdote, actually.
Thank you.
I was.
Tell them how much we made on the crowdfunding, Lemmy.
It was cool. We set records.
Sounds cool. I didn't hear that figure actually until after I'd seen the movie, because what struck me when I saw the movie was how much money must have been spent on the opening scene. Like I was watching what was going on and I was like this is actually like there's a lot going on in this opening scene, especially when the reveal of what it is shown. I'm like, you didn't even need
It's all
it,
for
you know?
Exactly.
And so then I find
you
out
didn't
that
even need the opening.
right, and then I find out that it's a $4.7 million was what, and I said, okay, well that makes sense.
Where
Then.
it goes.
Like, how do I spend this money? Was that part of it? Like, okay, now we got to think of fun ways to spend this money in this movie, or
We considered going on vacation.
right, or are you just like, this is great for salaries for the primary actors?
Yeah, those are serious options.
That option didn't
But I
get
think we
used.
spent the bulk of the money on that opening stuff because
We did.
Well, in the first movie, the opening of the first Super Troopers was, people loved that opening.
Amazing.
And so it was a matter of, oh shit, we got to top that.
Right.
And so you got to spend money to top that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Car chases and whatever it is.
get actors and the
get
whole
real
deal.
actors in there. and- yeah.
How aware of the whole thing was Linda Carter when she came on board? Did she know what Super Troopers was? Did she know what Broken Lizard was? Did she know?
She didn't know who we were. We knew who she was.
Right, and that's the important part.
Yes.
And we,
Intimate. We were pretty
when
surprised.
she came, we went up to her and said, "Why did you agree to be in this film with us? I mean, what's
the
going? Is
script?
something wrong with your career that you would agree to work with us?" And she goes, "I read the script, and my character didn't have any of the bathroom stuff, so I'm like, okay, I'll do it."
You're like, good thinking. Was she in mind when that role was written?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She was.
Yeah, absolutely.
We wanted to put like an iconic 70s, actress
Right.
into that role. She was the number one person on our list.
And is Rob Lowe your pick for his character in the film?
We wanted to put an iconic 80s actor in that role.
That's right.
We loved Youngblood.
Yeah, but he was in Youngblood, so we wanted to bring him back as a hockey player,
Hockey
Canadian
player.
hockey player.
How
Rob,
did-
great.
How
Rob
did-
Lowe's great.
He seemed great.
He's great.
Aside from being terrifically good looking, he's actually a very talented guy.
which makes us hate him even more.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like the scenes that he was doing, the costuming that he took part in, like he seemed fully committed to this thing.
He did.
And
He
was he
so into it.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so he was on board.
Well, what happened was Jay had worked with him on a show called The Grinder, and when we were casting it, he asked Rob if he would be into it, and Rob was like, "Yeah, definitely, I'd love to." And so he was on board, and then he got another TV show, and we're like, "Oh shit, we lost him. He's gone."
Right.
But he said, "No, what I'm going to do is I'll shoot my TV show Monday to Friday in L.A. get on a plane. I'll fly to Boston. I'll shoot with you guys Saturday and Sunday, and then I'll fly back and shoot. He did that for 4 weeks. For 4 weeks,
Wow.
he worked nonstop and just flew to us to work with us. So it was amazing that he did that.
Did you go through that thing of like, what? For
Yeah.
us? You don't
Seriously?
like almost like trying to talk him out of
Yeah, you feel
doing
guilty.
this.
There's
every
like a
actor,
guilt
yeah.
thing going
Right.
on. And,
You know, it's just for, you don't have to do that. You don't have to fly. We can, no, you don't.
we'll
you
get
don't-
somebody else.
Yeah, we can get Andrew McCarthy. I mean, it'll be fine.
Yeah, studio wants Ben Affleck, so if we could get somebody else.
He looks Rob Lowe. He's got this great hairdo in the movie. He looks exactly like the lead puppet from Team America.
Yeah, he does.
He really does.
I didn't put that together until just now.
It's identical.
And now when you go and see this movie, you're going to be like, that must be what the whole thing was based on.
I love that idea.
Did you make a conscious effort to be like, look, movie's coming out on 420. Obviously, our fan base enjoys smoking weed. Obviously, the characters enjoy smoking weed. It was well established in the first Super Troopers. We need to get some more pills in this movie. Like, we need to go beyond.
Up the ante.
Yeah, because the pill, the pill culture is heavy in this thing.
Well, it's really just a commercial for our next film, which is PillFest.
Well, you do understand the monster you created, by the way. When you make Super Troopers 2 and everybody loves it, I would say when you go through the Broken Lizard resume, the second most iconic, popular, whatever it is, the one that has the cult following is probably Beer Fest, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And this is only going to lead to people wanting another Beer Fest movie as soon as possible. They're like, you did it with Super Troopers 2, it worked. You got $4.7 million. Like, is that now on your radar?
We would love to make
PotFest is what was advertised.
Yeah, we'd like to
yes.
make PotFest very much. And, Willie Nelson really wants to do it. Snoop wants to do it. Cheech and Chong, they want to do it. Like,
great.
we'd really like to do it. But what has to happen ultimately is that if enough people go to the theater this weekend, then Warner Brothers will call us up and say, hey, you guys want to make PotFest? And if everybody's too high and waits for the video, then we're not going to make PotFest.
Right.
So even if you hate Super Troopers but love Beer Fest,
Right.
you have to go see Super Troopers in the theater in order to get us to make PotFest.
That makes perfect sense. Just do a little bit of homework. If you want the movie made, you don't even have to crowdfund it. Just go to see the movie.
This is essentially the beginning of the campaign for PotFest.
Right.
And all they have to do is go to the movie theater to see a movie that presumably they want to see already.
They
So it's
actually don't even have to go to the movie theater. They just need to buy tickets.
Right.
Yeah.
The homeless guy.
Stay home.
You buy a ticket, you go to dinner and go home. It doesn't matter. Just buy the ticket.
buy a
fully sold out empty screenings of Super Troopers 2.
That's fine.
Per screen average.
That's
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, you just buy the ticket online. Don't even leave the house ever.
Buy a ticket, stay home.
No
That's
point.
the-
Hang on the couch, play with your dog. We don't care.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's financially, it's hugely successful, but for some reason, the level of awareness is very, very low. Very low.
Empty theater.
Nobody's seen it. Weird.
We're trying to figure that out. Did you feel like, how long were you working on the script for this movie, for Super Troopers
3 years.
2?
3 years.
3, and how many rewrites? Was it an intense 3 years? We're scrap this, we got to do this, we got to try that?
37 drafts.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's about what we do, though. I mean,
Wrote a lot.
we vary between 24 and now 37 is probably the most. But I mean, it's usually a lot of drafts. 32 for Super Troopers, and
Man. And do you all write this like together in the same room at the same time, or is it?
Yeah. You do you do the concepting together, and you beat it out, and then just to get a draft to work off of, we divide it up, and everybody writes about 20 pages. And that's another reason why they take so many, because that, written by 5 people, even though we kind of do have the same brain, it's an unreadable script for about like 5, 6, 7 drafts, because just by virtue of having 5 hands on it. So it takes a while to really unify that, but then it goes in the hands of the point person. Each script has a point person, and then from that point on, they're the ones doing the physical writing, but it's really still about then getting the 5 guys together then to add all those jokes, to add all the sketches and stuff like that.
So for this ridiculous drug comedy movie, that takes a lot of discipline
Yeah.
to get the thing done.
Yeah. Yeah, but also there's just, there are things, there's scenes that you write, and then ultimately you're like, and then you dump it, or you
Right.
dump a character, and then, fold the script on itself.
Is that, I mean, it's probably easier now because you guys have been doing this for as long as you have, but especially in the beginning, is that a difficult thing when you write a really funny scene that you've kind of gotten yourself married to, but you realize it does nothing for the movie, like the story? Is it tough to just
we
throw it out?
learned that, you get into the edit room and you're like, you have to cut 10 minutes. And you're like, well, God, this hilarious scene has to go.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter.
Right.
And now when we write scenes, we're like put something of importance into some piece of plot moving dialogue in so that it can stay.
I see.
And even then, though, in the editing room, you look at these things and you're like, we thought we needed it, but we actually don't.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe when you're filming it, it's like, this is hilarious. And then you watch it and you're like, it's funny, but you know, it doesn't really do anything here.
Yeah. We dump it. Yeah, we dumped whole right before we shot. Right before we shot, we dumped a whole subplot.
It's funny is that what you've described, like the scene that is playing the best with audiences, is one of those scenes where we were like, this is idiotic. We'll go ahead and shoot it, but it's not going to make it into the movie. And somehow kept it in through each of these sort of edit passes.
What
and then
scene
we
was
started
it?
showing it. It's the Danny DeVito scene.
Great.
With the
Yeah.
Mounties. And like people just go apeshit for that scene.
It's a
And
great
that,
scene.
That case, like,
Not that Danny
it
DeVito's in
really,
the movie, but there's a conversation about Danny DeVito.
Right.
But
although, if it makes you buy a ticket, maybe
Sure,
Danny
maybe
DeVito's
yes.
in the movie.
Right,
We don't
right.
know.
We love
Maybe
Danny DeVito.
All the Danny DeVito
We don't
fans
know.
out there.
We made the movie. We don't even know if it's in the movie.
but it is the most plot irrelevant stretch of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you needed right now, you put a gun to our heads and you needed to cut a couple minutes, that's the thing, because it accomplishes nothing narratively. And yet we see now like that's going to be the most beloved scene in the movie.
Well, it does kind of spell out who their Farva is a little bit,
Those
right?
guys.
yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's
So
true.
that-
Gives you the dynamic of the other guy.
I'm
Right.
picturing the studio head who walks around with a gun and is like, 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, he's figured out that editors just don't listen otherwise. You need to threaten their
Cocking
lives.
a gun and
Back in the old days, yeah. Jack Warner, back in the old days, they used to walk around with a gun.
Does it become difficult as time goes on and, you know, everybody's got their own stuff going on to get everybody in the room for extended periods of time to write these scripts? Or is it like...
hard, yeah, it's become harder to get everybody together to write, for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's because we met when we were 18 and we're actually good friends. This is one of the best jobs in show business. So, you know, if we can make movies with our friends and continue, I mean, it's a pretty good job. So we are motivated.
Yeah. So on that motivation, do you ever want to, when you get stoners coming up to you, right, that are huge fans of the movie, but clearly aren't doing anything with their lives because they just love smoking weed all the time, do you want to say, like, you gotta do something at some point? Like, you can't just do this.
And honestly, as guys who have kids and are thinking it down the road to that, and how, like, I have some explaining to do to my kids, because these are very much sort of implied endorsements of pot smoking. That's, to me, that's the whole thing, is like, enjoy smoking pot, that's great, but don't turn into one of those people who does nothing else with your life. Like, from our point of view, we were all motivated guys. We wanted to do, you know, make comedy, wanted to make movies, and so smoking was a thing that helped us get towards that. It was a means to the end. But there are clearly people in this world who drop off their motivation.
And you know what? You really got to look at this movie. Especially, you really got to look at the first movie. We just talked about the opening scene that everybody loves so much. Everybody wants to be the highway troopers that get stoned sometimes. Nobody wants to be the guys in the car that are getting fucked with, right? And that's the middle ground you have to figure out.
That's the lesson.
So did you, at any point, like in the beginning of this process, not for the sequel, but for the original, did you know anything about highway patrol culture? Did you hang out with these guys, or did you just feel like, well, this is one of those things where people would just hang out and prank each other? So
we didn't know anything, and even the calls of like something, whatever, crime in progress. We just made up the numbers. We didn't even think about. We didn't think anybody was going to see this movie. We're like,
but it was funny when we were shooting, though. We kind of made up a lot of that stuff, but we were shooting on a stretch of highway, and they had to shut it down for us to be able to shoot. And so the state cops came and they shut the highway down, and then the local cops showed up and they're like, "This is our highway."
Mm-hmm.
And in real life, these guys were having a fight between themselves.
Pissing match, yeah.
And you know, we got to talking to those guys and learn. You know, I think we learned as we were shooting some of the stuff that they do in real life, and it really is mirrored in the movie for some reason.
We were giggling. When the highway guys and the local cops were arguing about whose jurisdiction we were sitting there taking notes, watching these guys.
Yeah, you're writing this for us right now. This is incredible. Did you have to? You're talking about discipline. Did you have to discipline? Okay, how many references to this first movie are we going to make? Like, okay, we got to acknowledge Ramrod, leader of cult. Like, we got to say that stuff, but if it just becomes like, remember from the first one, then it's like, what am I watching? Did you have to, like, was there a
in the same
algorithm?
In the same way that Law & Order made 250 episodes, we said, let's just make another one.
Right.
Same characters, same location, roughly a little more north, another story. And so we wrote that story. And then we went back in and sort of painted references to the first one and tried to keep it somewhat light, but,
Right. So really the thing that ties the sequel to the original is that the characters are the same people.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I mean, you gotta reference the meow scene, and you gotta reference the Liter Cola and that kind of
If
stuff.
we
and
make a third one, do we have to reference the second one or the first one?
I don't know. Or we can reference things in the first one we didn't reference in the second one. We can
Yeah.
do that too.
Although if you make the third one and you're only referencing stuff from the first one,
Yeah.
that's when you realize you really didn't do anything in the second one. Like if it's a trilogy and the third movie is referencing the first one, you're like, wasn't there something going on in the middle
In the
there?
third one, there could be another Danny DeVito conversation. You know what I mean?
Right.
The way it works.
That's true.
You know
Or
what I'm
maybe
saying?
we make the third one take place before the second one.
Oh, my.
Like it's not a prequel. It's like a
1.5.
middle.
That's insane.
Was there any?
Has anyone ever done a middle quel?
No,
Star
that
Wars.
could be.
Yeah, that's
Star Wars.
I guess.
I guess Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something. Was there any? Because I remember there was a rumor going around. Was there any serious conversation in making this a prequel?
There was, except our faces wouldn't wouldn't agree. They wouldn't. We couldn't make them look younger.
CGI, bro.
CG.
Benjamin
could
Button.
see- yeah.
Come on.
I mean, you also
You know,
didn't know you were
Benjamin
going to make $5 million off this thing. You could have CGI'd
Yeah.
all you to look like
Right.
10 years old if
That's
you
Yeah,
wanted.
that'd be great.
CGI comedies are hilarious.
They're the best. It's the best way to do comedy. It's the only way to do comedy, actually. It really is a wonderful thing. Do you get surprised, especially early on, at what jokes stick with audiences? Like, I'm sure that on set things are funny. We were just talking about that when we're figuring out scenes, but like, there are jokes that you don't know after the first one what you're going to have to reference in the second one, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what those timeless jokes are going to be and what's just going to be funny in the moment, right?
And you
Yeah,
kind of
that's
even
right.
don't even know until you shoot your movie until you show it to an audience. You kind of don't know that. Like you'll show it to an audience and they'll laugh at things that you didn't even think that they would be laughing at, and then those become those moments that they quote.
Yeah, there are a few lines in Super Troopers 2 now that we're seeing that are popping that like weren't even intended to be jokes, and I think that's one of the best things for us is like just those things that come
People
out of
find.
nowhere. Yeah.
I mean,
that's
it's like when we sign autographs for the first poster, we always write, who wants a mustache rider, or some quote, whatever we are known for the quote is. But on this, we've been signing a lot of this number 2, this poster, and we don't know what yet is going to
Right.
hit.
right.
Right. What is that quote?
you
that
don't
you're
guess
going for?
around.
We say, "Best wishes, Jay."
Yeah, I did find myself as I was watching the sequel, like laughing at points that I didn't think I was going to laugh at. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't laughing at like, oh, yay, it's the Super Trooper guys. It was actually like, oh, I didn't see that joke coming. Like it was actual new jokes that I was laughing at. So I don't even know after seeing it,
Yeah.
like
You
what
have to
I'm
watch
going
it
to.
again. You have to.
I
It's
will.
one of the beauties of seeing the movie in the theater with a big audience.
Yes.
Like I'd forgotten what it's like when the audience laughs and then the laughter carries over and stomps on another line of dialogue, because it means that people are going to be discovering these lines that they missed when they saw the movie the first time in the theater.
Right. Does the studio give you more money when you find out that it's popular enough to raise $4.7 million crowdfunding? Does the studio then give you also money because they're like, oh, I guess if people are going to give you that much money, they're going to go see this. We want to get on board
in
with
a
this.
way, yeah. I mean, the studio put up the advertising money, which was substantial, and we found the production money.
But also, they weren't sure. I mean, they weren't even sure. And
Right,
and as
nobody
we
was.
raised that money, they became more confident, and I think they embraced it more than they did before.
They didn't go like, well, if this many people like the movie already, you don't need any
Yeah, you don't need- what do you
advertising.
ask
You're
for?
fine. Yeah.
And then we
Basically.
tested it, and it tested 15 points higher than the original did. Now, to be fair, when you test a movie with unknown people in it, it tends to test a little lower. So,
Right.
But now that we're known, that gave us some more points. But at least when they saw how high it tested, they were like, oh, okay.
So the Broken Lizard guys have done all of us the great favor of coinciding this movie with 420. You should definitely go to the theaters and see this movie, because here's the thing. If you don't go see Super Troopers 2 in theaters, not only are you going to miss out on PotFest and whatever else Broken Lizard has up their sleeves, but you're going to end up just getting CGI stuff anyway. Like this is like there's only a little bit of time left to actually watch movies that are like movies that a person made, not the, a big conglomerate made on a computer and just animated and looked like something was happening. So
Yeah, we had somebody pitch us at some point. They're like, well, we're at that point now technologically where we could make a new Chris Farley movie. We could just take images of him
like a Tupac
and
hologram.
CGI a new Chris Farley comedy, and you're just like this is like Black Mirror shit now.
Yeah.
This is like dark, like a weird dark time that you're like, I'm not sure I feel good about this.
Yeah, here's your choice. Either go see Super Troopers 2 this weekend, starring real people doing real things, or just give in to the fact that robots are coming to take over civilization and just submit.
This is humanity's last chance.
This is
it
it.
sounds like.
This is it. It's
Give your
in
money to
theaters.
the robots.
But maybe that's a good idea for Super Troopers 3. We should just take on either robots or aliens.
Set in space.
Yeah.
Are you guys? By the way, before we are you guys from Vermont?
No.
You just picked Vermont.
We were there at a wedding, driving home from
I
a
like
wedding,
that.
and we saw some people had been pulled over by the cops. They're like, "Oh, let's do a movie about that."
Right. And you were like, no, literally. It has to be
Do
here.
it.
Because I was like, oh, one of these guys must be from Vermont, and they're like romanticizing it a little bit, but no,
No.
you just were driving there once.
No, we have
Yeah,
a buddy.
I'm in a
that-
friended cabin, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a house right on the border of Vermont and Quebec, literally 5 minutes from the border. And there's a highway that goes by his house that's just deserted.
So you go like you're driving down this highway for the first one, let's do it in Vermont. And the second one, you're like, oh, his house is on the border of Vermont and Quebec. I guess we should do about that border, I guess. Should be the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
This movie was originally named the Untitled Highway Patrol Comedy, and then Kevin's mom was pulled over by the Connecticut Highway Patrol, and she goes, "Oh, you guys are doing a movie about the Super Troopers?" And we were like, "Yeah, that's our title."
That's
Kevin,
what she calls it.
you understand,
Troopers.
Kevin, this is why you had to join the group.
I know. That's why they got
This
me.
is why you had
Titling.
to be here.
Titling.
Titling.
That's my skill.
Otherwise, we'd be here talking about Untitled Highway Patrol number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys all love Farva, right? You should see the guy title.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. The ideas he
See him
comes up with.
title. Thank you guys all for hanging out. Headliners. Isn't that great? You're a part of a show called Headliners. We're talking about this movie that started with like a bunch of unknowns, and they're
Sure.
trying to, apparently I've heard, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, get Ben Affleck
Yeah.
We're
to be in the
hoping.
first one.
We're
Yeah.
hoping.
But now
listening.
you're on a show on Raw Dog called Headliners.
Whoa.
Headliners.
Whoa.
So congratulations,
We
you've
made it.
officially come full circle.
That shit's
Good.
Very
dope.
cool.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
shit is super dope. You guys live dope lives. You do dope shit, and it's an amazing thing. Thank you all for hanging out, and
Thanks, man.
Oh, thanks
everybody
for
go
having
see the
us.
movie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Headliners with the cast of Super Troopers 2, right here on SiriusXM.